Good morning. We are not here to make a speech. We are here to let a principle take root. And if it doesn't take root, it won't bear. Don't try, live it, exemplify it. We are going to sit with one question until it ceases to be a question and becomes a consciousness. How can the unseen be more reliable than the money you can count today? And that sounds impractical until you discover that what you can count is already yesterday. The deposit you can read is the fruit of a life that flowed before you could hold it in your hand. In other words, the form you can count is never the source. It is only the fruit of a hidden life. Now, if you doubt it, look at your garden, look at an orange tree if you have eyes for parables. You don't go out and get oranges in the way the world speaks about getting. You abide where the orange tree bears. You water, you tend, you stand in quiet agreement with the law of its life. The oranges are not your achievement. They are the issue of a life invisible to your eye, moving through root and sap and sun in a rhythm you don't command. I am the vine, ye are the branches, said the Master. That wasn't poetry to be framed, it was instruction. Stay where the life is and the branch does not strain. The fruit appears because the life is. So when you look at your account and you wince, remember you are looking at branches and last season's crop, not the root life. The life is more than meat and the body than raiment. Don't you see? If you trust meat and raiment because you can weigh and fold them, you have already confessed that you believe supply is outside of you, arriving by accident or favor, and that is the birthplace of anxiety. But if you can sit quietly and recognize that the unseen life is the only source, your relationship to numbers changes. You will take them, you will use them, but you will not kneel to them. Man shall not live by bread alone, because bread is a picture of life, not life itself. You may say, yes, but can I rely on what I cannot see? And I would answer, you have been doing that every day. You rely on gravity without seeing it. You trust the warmth of the sun before it breaks the horizon. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Substance, do you hear it? Not a wish, not a maybe, substance. The orange on your table is an appearance of substance. The living order that birthed it is the substance. Which one will you learn to trust? I am not promising magic, and I don't know any shortcuts, because life doesn't need shortcuts. It unfolds. Bud to blossom to fruit, seed time and harvest. In due season we shall reap if we faint not. If you go out to your tree tomorrow and shake it because you can't see oranges today, you will call that work, but it is worry in costume. You don't speed life by strain. You center yourself in its rhythm. In other words, stop measuring the invisible with a calendar and a ledger and begin consenting to its way. So this class, if we can call it that, is simply to help you make the turn, not away from using money, but away from consecrating it as your source, not away from right action, but away from panic. We will stand at the tree together. We will learn the patience of recognizing a bud when our fear is demanding fruit. We will let the inner life prove itself as form, not to convince God of our need, but to allow God to convince us of his nature. And once you glimpse that, your account can go up or down this week, and you will not go up and down with it because your root is elsewhere and your season is safe in the life that bears of itself. Now let's be very plain, because if the hypnosis isn't named, it will keep working in the dark. The common suggestion is, if I had a little more money, I would be safe. We all know that whisper. It rises when the bill arrives, when the child needs shoes, when the rent clock ticks louder at night. And if you watch it, you will see that it does not come as wisdom, it comes as fear. It does not come as guidance. It comes as a lash. And with that lash we run, we chase. We phone, we plead, we plot a little more overtime, a cleverer scheme, a louder resume. In other words, we confess with our feet what our lips might deny. We believe supply is somewhere out there, and if we run fast enough, we will catch it. Now hear the negative definition and let it break the spell. Money is not supply. Money isn't supply. Money is a symbol of supply appearing. It is the shadow cast when the invisible presence passes near the screen of your affairs. Treating the shadow as the substance is idolatry in modern dress. Thou shalt have no other gods before me didn't vanish when we stopped carving wood. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Serving mammon is not having money. It is consenting to the belief that life is in the coin. The master sent Peter to find a coin in a fish's mouth. You see, the coin was not the supply, the command, the presence that knew where to point. That was supply. The coin appears, the presence abides. When we chase money, we enroll ourselves under what I have called cosmic law: measurement, strain, penalty, competition. Under that law, you are forever toting up your hours against your needs, your neighbor's success against your worth. You reap exactly what you sow, no more, no less, and you are sentenced by your own ledger. If you believe that your life is determined by your visible activity, then your foot slips the moment you sit down to rest, because rest under that law is lost ground. That is why the chase breeds more chase. Under cosmic law, another's harvest threatens yours. There is not enough, and if there is, it is not for you. But the law came by Moses, grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. And you will not touch grace while you kneel to the symbol and call it source. Let me be patient with you as life has been patient with me. Don't make a new law out of this and try to force your heart to stop fearing by next Tuesday. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. You may not at first be able to stop checking the account every hour. You may still flinch when the envelope comes. Acknowledge it without shame. Perfect love casteth out fear. But perfect love is not a slogan. It is an awareness that grows as you consent to it. Be still with it. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and pretend. Be still and know. If in the night the fear says, run, sit up in bed and whisper, I hear you, but money isn't supply. I is supply. The life that knows my need before I ask is present. You may not feel it at once. That's all right. The seed does not argue itself into blossom either. So let us be honest. Chasing money is not a strategy. It is a confession. It is the admission that we believe supply is outside of us, and if we do not lunge for it, it will pass us by. That confession builds the very world we fear, a world of clocks and contests and sentences. We are not condemned for having made it. We are invited to withdraw it. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, do you hear? Not wrestled for, not stolen, not won in rivalry. Added. When that begins to dawn, you will still work, you will still plan, you will still answer the mail, but not as a runner with a lash at his back. You will move as one who abides in life and lets life appear as form in its season, in its way, in its sufficiency. And the fear will not be driven out by argument, it will be displaced by presence. Come with me for a moment into an ordinary grove. The air is quiet, the ground a little cool yet from last night, and you stand before an orange tree that looks to the impatient eye like nothing much is happening. No bright globes. Bare, perhaps, or just the freckling of green. And the mind that has been trained by ledgers says, see, there is no supply. But listen, under your feet the root is drinking. In the trunk the sap is lifting. The invisible life is at work without a speech, without a calendar posted on its bark. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, first the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. In other words, there is an order, and it is not yours to invent. It is already operating. If you come back tomorrow, you may find only a tiny swelling at the tip of a twig, a bud so small you could miss it. That is conception. The life has moved from invisibility to the first sign. Is that fruit? Not yet, but it is supply in motion. Return again in its time, and the grove is perfumed, white blossoms open, an announcement made without noise, promise. Does the blossom feed you? Not yet, but it tells you that life is faithful. Give it its season, and the small green nubs appear where petals fell, shy beginnings that will become sweetness. And then, as days and suns and quiet nights do their unhurried work, color deepens, orange emerges. You did not strain for it. The tree did not clench its bark and argue itself into productivity. The tree abided in its life, and life appeared as fruit. Now, consider the absurdity that we indulge when we are afraid. We stand before our affairs as if before that tree, and we scold, we measure the branches, we shake them. We fasten yesterday's oranges from the market to the limbs and call it proof. We schedule the sun. We pray as if prayer were a lever to force God to change the rate of sap. Clothing, that is not prayer. That is worry in religious clothing. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? You see, you cannot speed substance with anxiety. You can only bruise the branch. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not, and yet their appearing is more perfect than our fretting ever produced. The parable is not about horticulture, it is about you. Supply is not the orange. Supply is the life that knows how to be an orange as readily as it knows how to be a dollar bill, a right idea, a door opened, a task completed, a need quietly met. Money isn't supply. The fruit you can count is not the source. It is the seasonal appearing of the source. The tree never produces by strain. It produces by abiding in its own life. So do you. The kingdom of God is within you, not in the market, not in the envelope, arriving at 4 o'clock within. When the within is recognized and honored, the without arranges itself. All these things shall be added. And let me be very simple here. When you notice only buds in your experience, small provisions, a faint leading, an introduction that seems trivial, don't despise the day of small things. Honor the bud. If you will recognize conception, you will not panic in the space before birth. Promise has a fragrance all its own if you will be still enough to breathe it. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. Not your season, not my season, the season inherent in life itself. You can water, you can tend, you can stand in quiet agreement, but you cannot add sweetness by clenching your jaw. Live in agreement with the life, and let the life reveal itself as form. So, when you leave the grove of metaphor and step back into your desk or kitchen or shop, carry the feel of that tree with you. Say within yourself, even if you see nothing yet, invisible supply is already operating, not will operate already. The bud may be present where you have been looking for oranges. The blossom may be in its hour. The fruit may be developing beyond the bark of your senses. Your part is not to manufacture outcome. Your part is to abide in the life that bears of itself. If you will rest there, quietly faithful, the day will come when you smile at what hangs heavy and sweet on the branch and know with a certainty that ends the chase, that it was never your straining that produced it. It was life being itself through you. Now here is the pivot. And if it doesn't come as a sentence but as a shift in you, it will do its work. I is supply, not Joel, not Mary, not the personality with its resume. I, the indwelling presence, embodies supply and unfolds as the form that meets the need. I and my Father are one, not two with a pipeline between us. One, the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. In other words, supply isn't something you and I go out to fetch. It is the life of God revealing itself as dollars, as ideas, as opportunities, as rest. When I say I is supply, I am not puffing up a personal ego. God forbid. I am acknowledging the Christ consciousness as the life of my being, Christ in you, the hope of glory. That I not, the tiny me, is the source that appears outwardly in its due season. There are only two ways to stand in this world. One is as mortal man, begging life for fruit, checking branches every hour, bargaining with prayer, or threatening with fear. The other is as the child of God, joint heir with Christ, letting the Father's business appear. Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business? That wasn't an early career announcement. It was identity. The child doesn't ask, where will the oranges come from? The child abides in the orchard of his father and finds that business is already in motion. The mortal says, prove it first, then I will trust. The son says, I trust, and the proof appears. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. When you find supply in the eye, you stop demanding visible proof before you trust, because the trust is not in a tomorrow, it is in a presence now. Let me be plain about the humility of this. You will hear me say often, I don't know. And that is not a lack of faith. It is reverence for unfoldment. I don't know how it will come. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. I don't know through whom or from where or on which date. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Quietness is not ignorance. It is the refusal to invent a plan for God. Confidence is not stubbornness. It is resting in the I that I am. If you ask, but what will tomorrow bring? The honest answer is, I don't know, but I know the life that makes tomorrow, and that is enough. Take no thought for the morrow. Why? Your Father knoweth. The knowing is already present as your being. Now, watch the two standpoints in a simple scene. A bill arrives. The mortal man reads it and feels the lash. He phones 10 people. He bargains. He lies awake, composing letters to himself. He has not sinned. He has merely confessed that his supply is outside. The child of God feels the same first flutter in the stomach and sits down. Father, thou art the life of my being. I am about thy business. Reveal thyself. He waits long enough to feel the shift from panic to presence. It may take 5 minutes or it may take 5 mornings. And then see if you have noticed this. The right idea is there. A forgotten account to close, a skill to offer, a conversation to have, or nothing at all but a quiet that is followed in its season by the envelope you did not beg for. Under which law did it come? Not under your cleverness, but under grace, not as a reward for strain, but as the appearing of what always was. Do not confuse this with passivity. The branch does not become a stick, it remains connected. Abide in me, and I in you. Abiding is action of the highest order. It is consenting to the flow instead of impersonating the vine. And if in your abiding you hear, write this letter, or call this person, or finish that work, do it as a transparency for the eye, not as a beggar for coin. Then the doing is clean. The harvest is not stolen from your neighbor. It is your own tree ripening. There is no rivalry in an orchard. There is one life individualized as many trees, and each brings forth after his kind without contest. Let this become very simple inside you. In the moment you feel the urge to demand proof, pause, whisper, I is supply. Not will be, is. Let it answer the fear before the fruit shows. We walk by faith, not by sight, not blind faith in a theory, but living trust in the indwelling one. If a friend asks, where will it come from? Never hesitate to say, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. That is lawful. That is honest. That is the end of pretending to be the vine. And as you stand there, unhurried, you will find that what you had been trying to make appears without your strain. And you will know quietly that it was the I doing the works all along. Good. Now let us name the deeper reason the chase lingers, even after you have tasted quiet. It is very simple. We have enthroned our senses as judges. We trust what we can see, touch, and count as if it was substance. If the branch is bare to our eyes, we call it lack. If the ledger shows a thin line, we call it danger, and with that decree, fear recruits us again for its run. But hear this and do not hurry past it. What you can see is not the creation, it is the image of an invisible substance at work. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is the discernment of substance beneath the picture. In other words, the visible is a formed effect. The substance is spiritual. There is no matter as cause, no material substance that can originate itself, no material law that can sentence or sustain. The things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Temporal means time-formed, time-colored, subject to waxing and waning. Eternal means that which is presence, life, the I that I am. When you look at dollar bills, you are looking at a photograph of an invisible order breaking into form for a moment. The photograph is not the person. The fruit is not the life. The coin is not the source. God is the substance of all true form. So, back to our tree for a sober lesson. In winter, the grove looks bereaved, dark limbs, no perfume, no color. You could stand there and, with a judge's gavel in your fist, pronounce death, and yet, within, the root abides. The law of the tree is intact. The sap answers a quieter sun. The pattern rests but does not cease, and time is being used to strengthen what you cannot see. The uninstructed man sells the orchard in January because he believes pictures. The wise man waters, prunes, and waits because he knows substance. We have sold too many orchards at the sight of bare branches. We have named seasons empty that were rich beneath the bark. This is why you must stop arguing with appearances. The account says one thing, the eye says another. Which will be your authority? We walk by faith, not by sight. Faith here is not gullibility. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Substance, do you hear? It is the inner knowing of the life that is being itself, moving to appear in due season. Sight is the time-bound snapshot. Faith is the recognition of the film that is still running. Do not tear up the film because one frame looks dim. And I know how stubborn the habit is. We catch ourselves, we glance at the number, and the old verdict flies to our lips. In that instant, practice righteous judgment. Say within, I is supply. Not this figure, not this paper. I, the indwelling presence, is the substance from which form derives. Then be still long enough to feel again the difference between a photograph and the person in the room. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and predict. Be still and know. The knowing is enough to unseat the picture from its throne. Now, look at what we call empty weeks. No orders, no calls, no outward proof. We rush to label it failure. But have you noticed the buds that form in such times? The skill you refine because there is quiet. The idea that gestates because no one is knocking. the contact that seems trivial, the inner correction of a motive, the pruning of a branch. If you misread these as nothing, you will panic and go back to fastening market oranges to your tree. If you honor them as life in motion, you will keep your hands gentle and your heart steady until color comes. Man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. The heart here is essence, substance, the invisible order. Learn to look where the Lord looks. Learn to stand before your own affairs with that gaze. The picture will still be there, figures on a page, a calendar with dates, but it will no longer govern you. You will use it as you use a weather report, helpful but not the climate of your being. And as you rest in principle, not argument, the picture will change of itself, because the root life is faithful. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself, and the herself of your life is God. Stop measuring the invisible with the ruler of appearances. Rest instead in the substance, and let the picture come right. Now, having learned to mistrust the photograph and honor the person, let us name the threshold you must cross, because many of you keep one foot on either bank and wonder why the river tugs at your ankles. Under what I call cosmic law, you live by sowing and reaping interpreted materially, tallying hours, comparing harvests, fearing penalties, fearing missing out, fearing you did not do enough. You measure cause and effect as if God were a bookkeeper who only pays on invoices stamped sufficient effort. Under that law, every silence looks like loss, every neighbor's gain like a threat, every rest like a costly pause. As ye sow, so shall ye reap, becomes not a principle of order, but a lash. And so you strain, you schedule the sun, you add columns late into the night because the belief is settled, if I do not hold the world together, it will drop me. Hear the gospel word that opens a different country. The law came by Moses, grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. Grace does not abolish principle, it reveals the principle as God, not effort. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. In other words, the root life is already moving. Grace is the higher action by which the Father within takes over the government of appearances. Fruit appears without the strain that impersonates the vine, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. That is the voice of grace. It does not reward your clenching. It reveals the supply that was never your personal achievement. Let me give you a sketch close to the ground. A woman sat in my room, not extraordinary, a mother with a small business. She had done everything right, as the world calls it. She budgeted with religious discipline, cut expenses with a surgeon's hand, rose earlier, stayed later, added a weekend shift. Her spreadsheets had more colors than a garden, yet every month ended with the same ache. Not enough. The form might swell for a week, then some small wind undid it, a repair, a client delayed, a child's fever. Under cosmic law, she was impeccable. Under cosmic law, she was also sentenced by her own measurement. I did not tell her to do more. She had done more. We sat. We were quiet. Be still and know that I am God. At first she heard only the ticking of her fear, then the shift. She began to know, not argue, that I is supply. She did not become irresponsible. She became unafraid. The very next day, not as proof, but as a natural outflow, two things occurred. An old customer, silent for a year, wrote with a large order, and an idea rose in her like a bud to change a small process that had been leaking money for months. The order was fruit, the idea was pruning. Neither came by lash, both came by grace. Her effort did not produce them. Her effort had prepared a tidy branch. Grace filled it. Do not make superstition out of this. Grace is not a trick to get quicker coin. Grace is the recognition that the living presence is the substance of every needful form. When the yoke of cosmic law is upon your neck, you cannot rest without guilt, you cannot work without pressure. Under grace, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You will still answer the mail. You will still keep your appointments. You will still water and prune. But the doing is no longer a God. It is a transparency for the God who does the works. Responsibility remains. Idolatry of responsibility ends. In other words, right action continues. The belief that action is source ceases. Someone will say, but if I relax into grace, will I not become careless? No. Carelessness belongs to fear and fatigue. Grace does not make you irresponsible. It frees you from the belief that responsibility is the source. As soon as the branch stops pretending to be the vine, its sap increases, not decreases. It becomes more faithful, not less, because the strain to be God is lifted. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not extracted by nightly combat. When you live here, another's harvest does not alarm you. There is no rivalry in an orchard governed by grace. Each tree bears after his kind, because one life animates all. I cannot tell you the dates. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But I can assure you of the order. First, the quiet contact, the recognition, I and my Father are one. Then, in due season, buds of guidance, blossoms of promise, fruit of provision, each added without panic, each used without worship. Let the accountant in you keep his books if he must. Just do not let him keep your God. Cross the threshold. Come out from under the lash of cosmic law into the liberty of grace. Stop trying to earn fruit. Abide and receive what has been yours from the beginning. Now comes the part that most offends our habits and most blesses our days. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. I know. The mind thinks, if I can repeat it often enough, if I can tattoo I as supply on the inside of my eyelids, I will force it to be true. That is only another way of fastening store-bought blossoms to a winter branch. It looks like faith for a moment. It photographs well. But when the wind comes, the silk flies. A principle doesn't help you when you can quote it. It helps you when it becomes your consciousness. The Word was made flesh, not poster, not slogan, flesh, life embodied. In other words, stop trying to teach it to yourself with lectures. You are not a poor pupil needing more sentences. You are a living tree in whom the life is already moving. Affirmations have their place as reminders. But listen now. The ego loves to use affirmations as a pry bar to make God hurry. You know the feeling, lips moving, heart racing, eyes on the clock. That is not prayer. That is bargaining decorated with religious words. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? If you cannot add an inch to your height by anxious thought, neither will you ripen supply by chanting at the branch, abide in me, and I in you. That is the instruction. Abide, return, rest, consent, listen, stay. Embodiment is quiet fidelity. It is the simple, steady turning of attention to the I within many times a day, not to get something, but to remember what is. Be still and know that I am God. Sit, and if all you can say is, I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, but I know thee, that is enough. Let the knowing be small at first, like a bud hiding in a fold of green. Do not despise that. Despise not the day of small things. Today you may only have a whisper. Money isn't supply. I is supply. And no feeling to go with it. Fine. Come again tomorrow. Fidelity is water to the root. The tree does not riot when there is only blossom. It holds the blossom in place until fruit swells behind it. Hold your little awareness that way. Guard it not with strain, but with reverence. And do not make a museum of your notes. You can underline every sentence and still live under the lash. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Doing here is not frantic action. It is abiding until the inner recognition alters the way your hand opens the mail, the way your voice answers the phone, the way your feet move through the day. You will know it is becoming your consciousness when you find yourself pausing before the old verdict forms. And in that pause, the quiet says, I is supply. And the fear has no chair left at the table. Then, if an idea rises, act not as a beggar, but as a branch clear of pretense. Some of you will say, but I tried to sit still and nothing happened. Never hesitate to say, I don't know. Just do not convert your not knowing into a law of failure. The bud is beneath the bark. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. In his season. Not on your schedule, not by your pressure. Your part is fidelity showing up inwardly, morning by morning, breath by breath, until the presence that is already the substance of your life outshines the habit that says otherwise. Let me be plain about teaching even to yourself. Do not try to articulate what you have not yet tasted. You may not at first be able to describe it. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it until it is flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone. When it becomes your consciousness, your words, if they must come, will be simple and clean. They will not try to convince you. They will be the overflow, like perfume from a blossom that cannot help but scent the air. Until then, be content to be a tree whose roots go down. Return, return, return. Keep your inner contact where the orchard is. If today is a bud, honor the bud. If tomorrow is a blossom, delight in the promise. And when fruit appears, you will know it did not arrive because you scolded the branch. It arrived because life, the I within, was allowed to be what it is, supply unfolding as form in season. If supply is the indwelling I, then the work shifts at once from the marketplace to the heart. In other words, if the orchard is within, go where the orchard is. Abiding is not passivity. It is the most practical, right now alignment you will ever practice. Abide in me and I in you. That is the instruction. Not outline, not plead, not negotiate, abide. Put down the stopwatch. Lay aside the shopping list. Sit long enough to feel the difference between talking about the vine and resting in the vine. How then? Very simply. Sit as you are, chair, edge of the bed, a quiet corner, and turn your attention inward. Close the door, as the Master said, meaning close the door of the senses. Let the breath come and go without management. If you must use a word, let it be a doorway, not a lever. Be still and know that I am God, or I and my Father are one. Or this, if you want to keep the parable in your hands, I rest in the root life. The fruit will appear in season. No pleading, no bargains, no outlining the manner or the date. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Your part is recognition. Stay until there is a shift, however slight. Do not demand fireworks. The first bud is often nothing more than a softening in the chest, a little loosening behind the eyes, a sense that the room has more space in it than a minute ago. That is not emotion. That is awareness unclenching its fist. If today you cannot feel even that, stay anyway. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence is not bravado. It is the settled knowing that the life is already at work beneath the bark. When the mind rushes in with its clock and calculator, answer it gently. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I rest in the root life, then return to stillness. Do this often, not as magic, but as fidelity. Morning before the day puts on its armor, midday when the old verdicts stir, evening before you release the day, and in the interstices, opening the mail, answering the phone, standing in a line, practice the one breath return. I rest in the root life. No one need know. The orchard is not in the street. It is within your own being. There, in the unseen, sap rises. There, the pattern of your life is kept intact by a wisdom that does not ask you to improve it. Abiding will not make you inert. It will make you clear. Out of that clarity, right action appears unforced. After the stillness, you may hear, write this note, finish that task, call this person, or simply wait. Move as a branch moves without impersonating the vine. This is why we call it alignment. The doing that follows contact is clean because it is transparency, not manufacture. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. The fruit that results does not wobble on the branch because it was not glued there by your anxiety. As for timing, let your soul breathe out its urgency. It may come today, it may take 3 months, it may take 3 years. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Do not translate that into delay, translate it into order. The life is already operating whether or not your senses have caught the fragrance. If you need a sentence to rest on when impatience knocks, use this. I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, but I know thee. That honesty is lawful. It ends the impersonation of omniscience and returns you to sonship. Keep the practice unadorned. 5 minutes faithfully given is better than 50 minutes spent bargaining. Return, return, return. When distraction carries you off, notice it without scolding and come back to the root. If a bud of peace appears, honor it. If an idea blooms, write it down and let it ripen. If nothing seems to happen at all, come again tomorrow. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. The season is not absence, it is appointment. Abiding is how you keep the appointment. And when fruit hangs in your day, money, opportunity, help at the door, use it and let it pass. Do not lose the invisible because the visible arrived. The orchard remains within and the root life remains the supply. Now, let us become literate in our own orchard, because some of you have buds on your branches this moment and you are calling them not enough, and in that very judgment you bruise them. Despise not the day of small things. A tree that has learned its seasons never scorns a bud for not being an orange. In other words, the first evidence of supply is seldom cash. It is an idea, a contact, a correction of motive, a new direction, a loosening in the heart, a door that was not there yesterday, that is the sap showing in color. How will you know a bud? You will hear a still small voice that is not bargaining. A phrase will rise in you, write this note, take this class, let that invoice be gracious. Call her now and it won't have the frantic edge of the old chase. Or the phone rings with what looks like a small matter, a former colleague just checking in. There is no check inside the envelope, there is a thread. Treat it as life moving, not trivia. A man sat in the back last month who had prayed, quite strenuously for better accounts. What came was not an account, but an invitation to volunteer one evening a week where his skill would serve for nothing. He nearly said no because nothing would not pay the rent. He listened instead. Within 3 weeks, that room introduced him to the very person whose signature, months later, would be on the contract. But hear me, the contract was fruit. The invitation was a blossom. If he had cut the blossom for not being fruit, there would have been nothing to ripen. Sometimes the bud is a new skill silhouetted against your pride. You feel to learn the tool you have been avoiding, to take a short course, to get your accounts in quiet order, to practice a sentence that tells your story cleanly. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. Faithful, not frantic. These are not detours from supply. They are supply unfolding as capacity, pruning the crossing branches, clearing the channel through which form can appear. Sometimes the bud is a changed attitude. Envy loosens. You bless another's harvest without a wince, or you no longer price your work in fear but in integrity, or you find yourself able to let $1 go without your fist chasing it down the street. That is as much supply as any coin. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I appearing as clear a judgment, as free a giving, as right valuation, that is substance before it takes on currency. And notice the little openings that arrive shyly. A cancellation you did not want, leaving an afternoon free. Your mind says loss. The I within may say space. Use the space to sit, to listen, to polish what has been rough in you. Or the email comes from a small group asking if you will speak, and they cannot pay. If the old lash governs, you dismiss it. If grace governs, you listen inwardly. Is this mine to do? Not for exposure, not for point, because the inner nudge says, yes, fruit does not always hang on that very branch, but the life increases in the whole tree, and when it does hang, you will trace the sweetness to a day you honored what looked like least. Now, the great mistake, contempt. That's not enough. Where's the money? Is this all? That tone is frost to a blossom. A bruised reed shall he not break, and the smoking flax shall he not quench. Do not bruise your own reed. Do not blow out your own wick when the first sign appears. However small, be simple and clean about it. Thank you, Father. Gratitude here is not a technique to squeeze larger numbers from God. Do not turn it into magic. Gratitude is recognition of life moving. It is righteous judgment seeing substance beneath the picture. In everything give thanks, not to manipulate, but to acknowledge the root life at work. Make this practical. Keep a small page, a bud page, and write down these quiet evidences. A name that rises in prayer, a sentence that clears a fog, a peace where fear used to sit, a new tool learned without groaning, a call that warms, an opening that makes room. Do not analyze them into oranges. Bless them. Tend them. If action is given, take it without strain. If waiting is given, wait without sulking. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Hearing is how blossoms are kept on the branch long enough to sweeten. You will find that when you honor buds and blossoms, panic cannot recruit you in the season before fruit. The heart knows. The life is moving. The old verdict has no gavel left. You are not hypnotized by an unright picture because you are in conscious contact with the sap. And when at last the fruit is heavy in your hand, you will not worship the orange or despise the bud that came before it. You will simply say, quietly, the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works, and you will be ready to bless, to use, and to let the life move on. Now let us lift our heads and look around the grove, because some of your fear still comes from glancing at your neighbor's branch. You see his tree weighted with oranges, and you touch your own counting blossoms, and the old verdict speaks, he is taking my son, she is taking my buyers, they are getting ahead. Listen quietly. There is no rivalry in an orchard. When supply is the eye within, another's harvest cannot threaten yours. A man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. The gift and the season are of the same life. If the root is within you, who can steal it? If God is the substance of all form, who can block God in you? In other words, competition is a confession that you believe supply is outside, scarce, and up for grabs. Under cosmic law, that is how the mind thinks, measuring, comparing, hurrying, manipulating. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. Under that lash, comparison breeds haste, haste breeds error, error breeds more proof that you must hurry. Love envieth not, the Scripture says. Envy is the fruit of a belief in separation. Love is the recognition of one, life animating many branches. There are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. Your neighbor's color is not your color. Your perfume is not his perfume. Together the grove is fragrant. Separately we become nervous salesmen fastening market oranges to our winter limbs. Look again at the grove. No tree elbows the other for sun. The sun is not a ration. Roots do not send spies to steal sap. The earth is not a single straw to an only mouth. Bees go freely from blossom to blossom, and the going increases all. In some parts of the season, one variety glows while the other rests and gathers. Then the roles swap, and the resting becomes radiance. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Supply is presence realized, not parcels divided. If you are rooted, the light that feeds your neighbor feeds you. His harvest does not diminish you. It proves the season is warm. And bring this down where you keep your accounts. Two bakers set up on the same street. The first hears the rumor of the other's skill and drops his prices below integrity, waters his ingredients, and cuts the courtesy that used to be his signature. He gains a week and loses a soul. The second returns to the inner contact ayah's supply and bakes as if for the altar. Honest loaf, steady hours, clean counted. He blesses the other in truth, not as technique. Freely ye have received, freely give. Within a month, the coffee shop that could never keep a consistent supplier asks him to deliver daily. The first baker's haste made him untrue. The second baker's fidelity made him clear. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. Faithfulness in grace is not passivity. It is right action without impersonating the vine. Talents and opportunities are not trophies to hoard. They are embodied facets of one life. But now hath God set the members, every one of them in the body, as it hath pleased him. When you accept this, you cease elbowing for someone else's place. Right place appears because you are in right relation to the root within. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. Do you hear the freedom in that? Doors do not open because you covet. Doors open because you abide where your tree bears. Coveting keeps you outside a door God never appointed for you. Abiding places you in front of the door that swings on its own hinge. Competition thinking keeps you crouched under law. It teaches you to move your calendar by fear, to speak with flattery, to promise beyond your light, to cut a corner here and there. In doing so, you reduce yourself to appearances, and appearances, being temporal, punish their own worshippers. Grace frees you from that sentence. When you bless another's harvest, you are not playing the pious game. You are acknowledging the one root. Rejoice with them that do rejoice. Your joy is righteous judgment, substance, not scarcity. And in that judgment, your own branch relaxes. Sap rises, buds hold, fruit ripens in season. Practice it today. If the report comes that your friend has found a position you wanted, be still. I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But I know thee, then bless him. Thank you, Father, for life appearing there. Turn to your own tree and tend it. Prune what is crossing. Water what is dry. Stand in your place. Right relationships will emerge without intrigue. The cooperative life will reveal itself as simple neighborliness, shared referrals, honest pricing, quiet excellence. You will discover that the laborers are few, not the opportunities. The field is white unto harvest, and the orchard is within. When supply is within, another person's harvest cannot threaten yours. It can only remind you that the season is real. My cup runneth over. Let theirs run over too. There is one life, one root, one substance, unfolding as many forms. Rest there, abide there. And as we move to the work of pruning and watering, remember, right action is the care of the tree, not the manufacture of fruit. Now we come to the simple dignity of work, not the chase, not the bargain, but the care of the tree. Hear this cleanly. We do not sit idle. We cease hunting supply while we do what is ours to do. Right action is the care of the tree, not the manufacturing of fruit. In other words, we tend the life that tends us. Every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Pruning, watering, sunlight, this is our part. The oranges will come of their own kind. Pruning first. Pruning is not punishment, it is release. You cut away what crosses and crowds the channel of life. In practice, that looks like this. You let go the fear habits that pretend to help panic checking your balance every hour, flattering to get a sale, underpricing to buy favor, saying yes while your conscience says no, outlining the outcome because you do not trust the orchard. Let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. Simplicity prunes. Integrity prunes. Even a small, honest spreadsheet can be pruning if it replaces the fog that let fear run your calendar. And sometimes the cut is hidden. The quiet decision to stop bargaining with God in your prayers, to stop using affirmations as levers. Money isn't supply. I is supply. When that realization begins to live in you, a whole tangle of frantic shoots has no more sap to drink, and you will feel the branch lighten. Watering next. Watering is daily inner contact. Abide in me, and I in you. You return and return to the root life, not to get fruit faster, but to remain aware of the life that bears. 5 minutes given in the morning, a minute between tasks, a breath before a decision. These are cups of water at the base. Take no thought saying, what shall we eat? For your heavenly Father knoweth. Watering is how you take no thought in truth. You choose inner recognition over outer rehearsal. Do not measure it. Give it. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. When your attention rests in the eye, moisture moves through what used to be dry. The mind will say, nothing is happening. Answer gently, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet. But I know thee. Water again tomorrow. And sunlight? Sunlight is receptivity. You do not create it, you allow it. Leaves open. In practice, this is the willingness to be taught, to be corrected, to be led in new ways without pride at the wheel. Gratitude is a kind of sunlight because it opens the leaf surface of the heart. In everything, give thanks. Not as technique, do not turn the sun into a switch, but as righteous judgment. God, the substance of all form, shining where you stand. Receptivity says yes to right opportunity and also yes to a clean no when the inner witness says, not yours. The same sun ripens and rests. Learn both. Bring this into the day's labor. Work with integrity. Show up on time. Keep your word. Answer your mail cleanly. Price your craft without fear. Correct your mistakes without theater. Learn the skill you have avoided. Oil the hinge that squeaks. File the paperwork. Organize the tool bench of your trade. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. And remember, the might isn't source, it is transparency. Follow leads that rise from peace, not from panic. Make the call when the nudge comes. Send the proposal when the witness is there. And if the answer is not yet, let not yet be holy. Keep a self-check near your tools. Ask it plainly. Am I acting from panic to get fruit or from peace because life is present? You will feel the difference in your body. Panic shortens the breath, rushes the sentence, explains too much, discounts too quickly, adds glitter to hide fear. Peace moves with economy. Your words are simple. You can wait on a reply without prowling your inbox. You can walk away when the inner no is clear. If you find yourself hurrying the branch, stop, sit, water. Let the sun touch the leaf, then pick up the task again. Often the very email you are about to send will lose half its words and gain twice its light. A little story to keep your hands honest. A designer in our circle used to carpet bomb the city with proposals every month. Discounts piled on discounts. The tone was a beggar's. Fruit rotted on the table because it wasn't his. One day, he pruned. He cut the habit of pleading words. He stopped chasing clients who answered only his fear. He cleaned his portfolio, and he watered 10 quiet minutes each dawn. I and my father are one. Then sunlight receptivity. He allowed himself to say no to a big, flashy, wrong-fit job, and yes to a modest project that matched his gift. That little job was paid promptly. It introduced him to a firm that valued his exact line of sight. 6 months later, without haste or panic, his calendar was ripe. He did not make the fruit. He kept the life clear. This is your integration. Right action is the care of the tree, not the manufacture of fruit. Tend the orchard within. Prune fear habits. Water with conscious contact, open to the sun of grace. Then do what is yours to do, quietly, cleanly, faithfully, without mistaking the doing for God. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, step by step, not scramble by scramble. And when fruit appears on your branch, you will know why. Not because you hunted supply, but because you abided where supply lives. Now, when you have tended the life and without strain, the branch grows heavy when the check arrives, when the order is placed. When the call comes with terms you had not even outlined, this is the moment to be very quiet. Not excited quiet, wholly quiet. Because the same mind that panicked when there was no fruit will now try to worship the fruit that has appeared. That is the paradox. In other words, lack hypnotizes and so does plenty. One shouts, "Hurry!" The other whispers, "Trust me, I am your life." And so we practice here what we have said all along. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Fruit is not the worker, fruit is the work shown. How, then, do we hold money cleanly? In everything give thanks. Thank you, Father, not to the ink on the paper, not to a name on a line, but to the presence that unfolds as dollars, as opportunity, as open doors. Appreciate it. Use it wisely. Do not call it the source. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt. That is not a command to be careless. It is a warning against idolatry. Count it, if you must count it. Stewardship is not fear, but count it the way you count oranges in a basket after harvest, with gratitude, with purpose, with the understanding that the basket is not the tree. Spend it where integrity points. Pay what you owe without theater. Bless where you can. Invest in your right work, but refuse to bow to it. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Keep your heart at the root. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply, appearing as money for a season and for a purpose. The stability you seek is not in amassing more baskets. It is in recognizing the life that bears season after season. The same presence that ripened this crop will ripen the next. Can you trust that? Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. not above in the sky, above the level of thought that believes supply is outside. When you know where the fruit came from, you do not have to clutch at it to secure your future. Clutching is proof that you have slipped back under law, sowing, reaping, calculating, defending. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. Grace is the continuity of life expressing itself as your provision, not once, but in right rhythm according to the pattern shown thee in the mount. If one tree is born, that is the law of its nature. It will bear again as you remain in your place. Abide in me and I in you. And do not attempt to engineer the next harvest because this one tasted sweet. Resist the impulse to turn prayer into a production line. Be still and know that I am God. We remain teachable. We can say, I don't know, it hasn't unfolded to me yet, but I know thee. That humility keeps the channel clean. If you outline the manner, the date, the person through whom fruit must come, you are fastening market oranges to your winter limb again. Let the eye reveal itself as this and as that, and as something you have not imagined. The wind bloweth where it listeth. Our part is to keep the root watered and the branch transparent. Make this practical without turning it into a trick. When fruit appears, let some of it circulate. Freely ye have received. Freely give, not as a lever to get more, but because giving is how love breathes. Care for your obligations with dignity. If there is surplus, rest some of it. Do not rush to plant it in fear soil. Ask within, is there a right use? Sometimes the answer is to strengthen what is weak in your craft. Sometimes it is to bless quietly where no one knows your name. Sometimes it is to sit a while without moving a single piece on the board. Charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute. Trust not in uncertain riches. Trust in the eye that appears as riches and disappears as riches and remains itself. Let me tell you, a writer among us received a sum that startled him. Years of lean had trained him to check his breath on opening envelopes. His first thought, honest as a child, was, how do I keep this from ever ending? He almost bought locks for the basket. He stopped instead. He sat in his ordinary chair and whispered, money isn't supply, I is supply. Then he asked, what is mine to do? He paid what was due. He put his tools in better order. He gave where the quiet said yes, and he walked back to his desk the next morning without rehearsal. Months later, another door opened through a line he had written in the piece of that next morning. Same root, new fruit. No strain. Hold the visible like that, lightly, gratefully, obediently. Use it, bless it, let it go. Do not lose the invisible when the visible arrives. My peace I give unto you, not a peace pegged to numbers, but peace rooted in presence. If this fruit spoils, another will form. If a branch rests, the life has not gone anywhere. The orchard is within. Fruit is to be used, not trusted as substance. The root life remains the supply. Abide there, and harvests will not confuse you again. And now, quietly, let me leave you with this. You will not go back to the old chase in quite the same way. Oh, you may feel the tug. The calendar may throw its little storms, and a voice may rise in you, hurry, hurry, the basket must be filled. But having once felt the sap, having once watched a bud become a blossom without your whip, you cannot be entirely fooled. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. In other words, you have glimpsed a principle. And once a principle touches consciousness, it does not fully let you return to the old make-believe. You may wobble, you will not be the same. Remember the arc we have walked together because it is the map of your ordinary days. First, the bud inner recognition, a still small voice, a quiet loosening, a right idea that had no price tag on it. Despise not the day of small things. Then the blossom ideas and openings, invitations that smelled like life, not panic, a phone call, a corrected motive, a capacity pruned into clarity, and in season the fruit forms appearing as checks, contracts, opportunities, yes, but now recognized as the work shown, not the worker. By their fruits ye shall know them. But the knowing is not of oranges, it is of the life that bore them. Money isn't supply. I is supply. I embody supply. When that is realized even a little, you stop demanding visible proof before you trust. So here is my counsel, simple and plain, the kind you can carry in a pocket. Stop chasing money. Sit, if only for a moment, and abide. Be still and know that I am God. Make conscious contact. I and my Father are one. And then let supply unfold outwardly as needed, in due season, in right ways, through right channels. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not seized. Received, not engineered. You are only under cosmic law until you achieve the realization of grace. Under law you sow and sweat and fear the harvest. Under grace you consent to the life that has always been your sufficiency, and it appears as form without your outline. And when fear tries again, as it likes to do, say honestly, I don't know. It hasn't unfolded to me yet, but I know thee. That humility is sunlight. Do not try to teach your heart. Let the principle teach you as you live it. Don't try. Live it. Exemplify it. 5 minutes in the morning to water the root. A breath between tasks. A truthful no where flattery used to speak. A faithful yes where obligation is yours. These are simple cups of water at the base of the tree. Keep your little bud page. Bless the quiet evidences. Tend your work without impersonating the vine. If you need support, and sometimes we do find one who has been touched by this grace to stand with you. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Ask a practitioner, a friend in the way, a student who has tasted this rest, will you sit by me in this? Not to get me money, but to stay me in the I. Fellowship is not a shortcut to fruit. It is shared sunlight upon many leaves. And do the same for others when the nudge comes. Freely ye have received, freely give. Take this with you. You are not trying to get supply, you are consenting to the life that already is supply to appear as form. Consent today, consent tomorrow. Consent when the account looks thin, and consent when the basket is heavy. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Not the oranges, only the kingdom, the root, the rhythm, the quiet sufficiency of grace. Walk home in that pay what is yours to pay, bless as you are led to bless, do your work cleanly, sleep in peace, and when you wake, say softly, the orchard is within. Then go about your day, and let the Father that dwelleth in you do the works. Lo, I am with you always,